Okay, perfect. Okay, and now, buy now or wait. Yes, my name is Tia Honeycutt, and I am the broker founder of Proxima Realty Group. We are located here in the San Francisco Bay Area. So just know that any of the information that you get here is hyper local, meaning it's local to the San Francisco Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area practices. And if you are outside of that area, you are going to want to refer to your local realtor expert who is going to be able to let you know how things work in your neck of the woods. Okay. Please do take a moment to follow me. I am active on YouTube and Instagram as well as others. So please do check us out there. There's a lot of good information that happens there and a lot of topical information as far as things that are going on in the news. Of course, our listings and things going on with the California Association of Realtors, California CAR for short, or the National Association of Realtors, NAR for short, that have been very much in the news lately. So please do check those out. All right, so you may or may not have heard that the real estate market is heating up, and it absolutely is. There are a lot of buyers out and about, a lot of folks that are getting pre-approved, and even though the interest rates are higher than they were a few years back, they have actually ticked down a bit in the last couple of days. So it is a great time to go out there and look, especially if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area, because there are a lot of first-time home buyer programs that are available to first-time home buyers. Again, they are first-time home buyer programs, not necessarily programs for folks that need financial assistance. In some cases, yes, but everyone can benefit from financial assistance because the homes are so expensive that a down payment that's anything less than, 200,000 or 100,000 makes it so that the monthly payment is very expensive. It doesn't make it impossible, but it does make it very expensive. Knowing that both cities and the state of California have created programs to support home ownership. Why do they support home ownership? Because people realize that the more owners that you have in a neighborhood, the better for the neighborhood, in the sense that people have an ownership mentality and understanding that a lot is kind of on the public to make sure that the communities are safe, are adequately resourced, all of the above. So there is absolute support. And again, as we will talk about later, those programs get funding on an annual basis. So what does that mean? There's a budget that is drafted on an annual basis, and once those funds are spent, which is usually where we end up by the middle of the year, that's it. Right? Then you're looking at the next month's budget. And because everything is changing so rapidly, there's no guarantee about the next month's budget. So this is definitely the time to make it happen. As I said, fully funded down payment assistance programs, right? So I believe Oakland has at least two or three, and I know at least one of those two or three is now already out of funds. So it's really the time to get in contact with a realtor, have them get you connected with a lender that specializes in these programs and really see what's going to work for you. Another thing that's really interesting about the first-time homebuyer programs is it doesn't mean it's your first home ever that you've owned. It just means it's perhaps the only one that you've owned in the last 3 years. So if you had a foreclosure, or if you had a spouse that you're no longer with, you are eligible as long as your name isn't on a deed or a title in the last 3 years. So just to highlight a couple of the programs that are available, in particular in the Oakland area, you have the Oakland Housing Authority Homeownership Program. This one also is maybe very similar to the Section 8 program. I have last year I was representing the seller, but our buyer was a Section 8 renter that was able to utilize her great payment history as a Section 8 renter to turn that into an opportunity to buy. So if you are on a Section 8, you have a Section 8 voucher, please do research and see what other opportunities are available to you. Please take a photo of this screen and research this link because there are funds available in this particular program. AC Boost is another program that provides loans, as it says here, up to 200,000 in some cases. Again, check acboost.org. This may be one of the ones that is getting close to spending all of their funds. So the sooner you research it, the sooner you figure out whether there's a class to be taken. Many people that I've been speaking to recently said, I took a class, but I can't remember where my voucher is or if I have to do it again. The sooner you can get all of that going, the sooner you'll know what steps need to be taken to take advantage of that. This one I know does still have funds, I believe. Cal HFA. You've heard a lot about this one in the last couple of years because the first year it was a lottery, then the second year it was still a lottery, but they added a requirement that you be a first generation home buyer, which meant that your parents couldn't be active owners at the time. And also, they limited the amount of awardees by area. Because the very first time they did it, everybody in Sacramento got it, a couple of people in LA, and that was it. So they realized that that wasn't fair. So they kind of reorganized it to make sure that it was evenly spread throughout the state. So that went forward last year. I had at least two buyers that qualified for it. They decided not to use it because they realized they had enough funds and the seller was able to work with them so that they didn't have to take advantage of it. So there were two additional happy buyers that were able to take advantage of the Cal HFA program. And realize also these programs are very, very different. Some of them are loans, which means that you have to pay them back. Usually they make it very easy for you to pay back in the sense that it doesn't add to your monthly cost. It may be something you only pay back at the end. And then some of them are grants, where they actually just give you the money. And then of course there's restrictions like you have to live in the property, you have to be a first-time home buyer, things that tend to make sense. But there's some incredible opportunities out there. So please do take a look at them. Sonia Reed, I just wanted to give you some examples of folks who have actually gone through these programs and are experiencing success based on that. Was able to go from being houseless to a homeowner, which is incredible, right? Which is an incredible, incredible turn of events based on these kind of first-time home buyer programs. And generally, these programs have classes, they give you support, they help you with your finances, all the things that we wish we learned in school, these programs will provide for you. So incredible story there. Um, Another example, this is not Jack and Liz, by the way, but is something that we can assist you with as realtors is strategizing, right? Because everybody's story is a puzzle. So, one thing that I have really been trying to educate folks on, and if you root around in my YouTube channel, you will find a workshop that I did devoted to purchasing multifamily properties so that you can move into one of the units and have your tenants pay for the other units, right? So how do you do that? Well, first and foremost, let's talk about what a multifamily property is. A multifamily property is something like a duplex, a threeplex, or a fourplex, something where multi-families, many different families can live in the same building, but have separate domiciles or living areas. These are also really great for multi-generational living. So, like if you have an older parent that you want to give them their space and make sure you still have your space, but you know that they're nearby and somewhere where you can see after them and check in on them. The reason that this is such a great opportunity is because the more units you have, the more likely you're going to be able to have the folks staying in those other units paying your mortgage. And that's completely allowed. It is completely allowed if you have three, 4 units for the other 3 units to be covering the entirety of the actual mortgage on the property. Additionally, when you purchase the property, the lender is going to be able to take 75% of the potential income for the property and credit it towards your ability to qualify for purchasing. So in addition to having that money contributing to your mortgage payment, you're also going to be able to have it help you get in the door in the very first place. And obviously, I try to encourage folks to get as many units as possible. Now, some people are a little bit weird, feel a little bit weird about becoming a landlord. And to that, I will say the vast majority of landlords in this country are small mom and pops. And the people who live in those buildings are a lot happier, I would say, than folks that are being managed by some industrial, hedge funds that's somewhere far away and really doesn't care about whether people are happy, whether things are being maintained, and are really invested in the success of the community. Something I will also say, just as far as a little house hacking hack, is to get yourself a property manager or to work with your realtor to put someone in between you and your tenants, just so that you're not as at the ready for them should they decide to need something or want something or try to, not pay their rent or something like that. It's always nice to have a professional in between yourself and them. But of course, if it's family members, then, it's a different scenario entirely. So that's one of the type of strategies that people put forth. Of course, another strategy is Airbnb in a regular single family property. And then, I also have many clients that will rent out a room in their home to a traveling nurse or some other type of professional. And that also goes really well for folks, especially when you're bringing folks into your own living space. Somebody like that who is, working a temporary job situation ends up being a really great idea and works well. So again, how are you going to achieve these kinds of successes? Well, it's very, very important that you connect with a realtor as soon as possible. And it's been a very interesting shift in the industry. It used to be folks would walk into a real estate office, and they would sit down and that's how they would begin their real estate search. Or they might walk into a bank and talk to a banker. And that's how they would begin their real estate search. Nowadays, most people pull their phone out. They go on one of the third-party websites. That's one that rhymes with Rillo. And they look on it and they see, okay, I want that house, right? And the only issue with that, the only problem with that is that when you start there, you really don't have an idea of how much you can afford. And so it leads to some unhappy situations because folks are looking at properties that are way, 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 way outside of their price point. And it's really much better to start with someone who can guide you, help you figure out what's in the budget, and then you can start looking, right? Because when you do it that way, then you'll be happy with what you're seeing because you weren't looking at other things. Anyway, I understand that that is trying to close the barn door when the horse has already escaped. I think I got that one right. Um, but it's an important part of the process to contact a professional who can give you some guidance so that you're not just wasting time going to open houses. I mean, if you just like going to open houses, that's one thing. But there is, there are some restrictions now around, just going in and out of properties without having some sort of relationship with the realtor as well. So the sooner you can contact a realtor, and certainly a lender, the better. So the whole point of our training today is to bring home the point of how it is that when you wait, you lose money, right? And the reason that you lose money is number one, you are continuing to pay a monthly rent amount, right? So that's money out of your pocket that's not doing anything for you except allowing you to live somewhere, right? But when you are paying that money, where does it go? It's just like when people say you follow the money, right? Your money is going right into your landlord's bank account, right? But that money is now sitting there working for the landlord. Why? Because that money is allowing the landlord to gain equity on the property. So not only may they be making a profit because their mortgage is less than what you're paying, or their mortgage is less than the aggregate of what all of their tenants are paying for a particular property, or the addition, when you add it all together, what the tenants are paying is probably more than the mortgage. So that's their profit, right? Or their cash flow. But additionally, just by the property existing and sitting there due to inflation and other economic processes that are occurring, the landlord is making money off of your money, right? So the goal is to see how we can make your money make money for you. And the way that you do that is by buying your own property. So the sooner you buy, number one, the less money you have going out of your pocket year after month and year after year. Additionally, people's families tend to grow over time, even if it's just by another individual, right? So when that happens, the type of property that's going to work for you is going to start to get bigger and bigger, right? When you could have lived and worked and made it and it would have worked out just fine for you to be in a studio if you had started in your 20s, then you meet someone and now you need one bedroom, maybe two bedrooms, right? Then, a little one comes along. Now you go from squeezing maybe into a two bedroom for as long as you can to maybe needing a three bedroom, right? So the difference in the amount of cost in each of those properties is going to escalate by 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 as time goes on. Meanwhile, you are spending out all of this money in rent that you could have been putting towards a down payment, or at least could have been putting towards your mortgage. So that's why a lot of realtors and people in general say the sooner the better as far as purchasing is concerned. Why? Because if you had bought that studio in your 20s, you would have had some amount of equity that you could have either borrowed against and bought a new place, or you could have sold and bought a new place with a bedroom, two bedrooms, etc. And that's how a lot of people get up to the big fancy house that they have when they're older, right? Boomers were able to do it differently because property prices were a lot lower back then. And some of them did the same thing. They started out with a small starter home and then they sold that and moved up to a bigger property. Nowadays, we absolutely have to do the flipping game, right? Another great benefit of that is that you have a tax break currently. Currently, there's a tax break of 250,000 if you lived in the property. I believe it's either two or three of the last 5 years. And if you're a couple, I believe they're a married couple, 500,000 if you've lived in the property the last 3 of 5 years. So that means that that equity that you have is protected. You're not going to get the life taxed out of you on that amount of money, which is huge because you will absolutely have 250 or half a million of equity if you've been in a property 3, 4, 5 years. It's pretty amazing how much property values go up over time just for sitting. Again, this is the San Francisco Bay Area, right? I know different parts of the country are different. But here in the San Francisco Bay Area, it's amazing how quickly properties move up. So, interest rates. So, to be specific, I mean mortgage rates, right? The interest rate and the mortgage rate are two different things. The interest rate affects the mortgage rate, but the one you care about is the mortgage rate, right? Because what we noticed last part of last year was that they cut interest rates or they held them steady, but the mortgage rates actually went up. And mortgage rates, unfortunately, tend to go up when there is a threat of inflation, right? And additionally, specifically, mortgage rates are tied to the 10-year treasury. We don't care. We don't care about all this economic stuff. But I'm just saying, if you want to try to predict where mortgage rates are going to go, look at the 10-year treasury. So, unfortunately, that has not been going in the direction we wanted to go in as far as mortgage rates are concerned. So, what does that mean? It means you should not be sitting around waiting for mortgage rates to be at a number, some arbitrary number in your mind that you have decided they should be at, right? You need to look at the properties that are available now. You need to look at your financial situation now and say, well, my goodness, I've been paying 4 or 5 grand a month rent or 3 grand or whatever it is. That would get me, this kind of a house in this area. And you know what? Or a condo or a duplex or fourplex. I could do that. And if you can say to yourself, I can make the payment for the property, or with some rental income, I can make the payment for the property, that's when you buy. You don't buy on macroeconomic conditions. You buy on your own microeconomic conditions, right? So that's what we're saying is the interest rate waiting game is not the way to go. And you'll see businesses, they don't do that either. They look at what they need to accomplish. They look at their business plan and they say, okay, I'm going to buy that um, tractor trailer. I'm going to buy that, digger, whatever it is that they need in whatever business. Not They may take into account the interest rates and say, okay, maybe we'll buy a little bit less because we're going to have to service that debt and we don't want to saddle ourselves with debt, with too much debt. But those are the kind of conversations that are important to have both with your lender and your realtor. And that's why it's important for you to speak with both of these professionals because they can help you strategize. And they can say, okay, if this is a monthly payment and if this is how much down payment we think we're going to get from down payment assistance, or if this is how much down payment you have, this is where you can be. These are the kind of properties you can look at. So let's take a look and see which will work for you. So next steps. What do we do? How do we take a step from here and make it happen? As I've said throughout this presentation, get a professional on your side. It's super easy. If you want to look at whether homeownership is something that we can strategize and make happen for you, you have to reach out to a real estate professional because they are going to really work to they're not going to try to shove you in a property, or I'm not anyway, and my team isn't either, isn't going to try to shove you into a property that isn't going to work for you because we want you to have success, long-term success. And we want you to be able to come back and buy your next house with us and your kids and your friends and your parents. We want everyone to be able to really get involved with the wealth building. But in addition to generational wealth, which many communities have been denied, it's about being able to lay down roots in your community. And when you are a renter, you have a very tenuous, very weak connection to your community because that rent keeps going up and up and up and up and up over time, which ends up driving people out of the community. But when you own, you have locked in the amount of money that you have to pay per month for 30 years if you have a 30-year mortgage. That's a lot of reassurance to know, well, at least I know my housing cost isn't going to go up. Even though everything else is food and gas and all these other things, at least I know my housing cost won't go up. Additionally, here in California, as opposed to some other states that folks are going to and then getting a very rude awakening when their property tax doubles. In California, we have Prop 13, which limits how much the property tax can go up on an annual basis. And that is huge because, again, you still have it locked in. There's your mortgage, but then there's annual property tax that you have to pay, and that pays for roads and lighting and all of the things that the property is situated in. The property tax is there to support, right? And that amount is will not go up or double as I have seen in Texas and some other places, which is huge. So, here is my contact information if you have questions. Again, we're not going to try to shove you into anything that isn't going to work for you. But, even just to have the conversation to say, is this something that can work for me right now? Or what are the steps that we need to take to be able to put ourselves in a situation where we could be talking about homeownership? This is my phone number. Please text or call. This is our website, the secure code for our website. Point your phone at it. Meet the team. Very happy to have one of my team members, Antoinette, on the call today. Thank you so much for joining us, Antoinette. So we stand at the ready. I consult with folks all the time who are, trying to get themselves to a position or didn't realize there were certain things that they needed to do to get themselves to a position to buy. And we're more than happy to do that. That's what we're here for. Again, don't hesitate to follow me on YouTube and Instagram for topical. This workshop, as well as many others, live on there. The last one was devoted solely to down payment assistance, and I had a lender on there, so please go on that one if you're curious about down payment assistance. I had another one on there for first-time home sellers. So if you have friends that are thinking about doing that next leap and want a little information about that, that can be found there as well. So go ahead and check that out. And then Instagram, I got a lot of fun stuff on there, a little shorter videos and that sort of thing. So that is it. Thank you so much for joining today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much for being here. Enjoy your Saturday and look forward to catching you on the next one. Please, again, don't hesitate to text or call or email. We look forward to chatting with you soon. Have a great day. Bye.